My fiancé Jason and I were both reborn. After his rebirth, Jason brought his beloved Emily and her younger sister Emma home 2 months earlier than he did in our previous life, supposedly to take care of them. As soon as Jason brought the sisters back, I took the initiative to go to his parents and cancel the engagement. I returned the engagement token. In my previous life, I had trapped Jason in marriage for a lifetime. It wasn't until I died that I realized the person he had been thinking Gabbett all along was Emily. In this life, I chose to step away early, hoping that he and Emily could love each other wholeheartedly and stay together forever, and that all their wishes would come true. Later, I was finally able to attend college as I had always dreamed. Just a few days after I left, Jason, upon hearing the news, went frantic trying to find me. Holding my college admission letter, I couldn't help but burst into tears. In my past life, I fell deeply in love with Jason, the top student at our school. I thought he loved me just as much, so I gave up the opportunity to go to college to marry him. I gave birth to his children, took care of his parents, ran the household. I aged, wore myself out, and was left with illness. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that I found out Jason had been secretly involved with Emily, his military buddy's younger sister, for years. He had built another family behind my back. Jason saw me as nothing more than a boring housewife who only cared about cooking, groceries, and housework. I was nothing like Emily, who graduated from a prestigious university, was well educated, refined, gentle, and understanding. Someone who shared his interests and values. Even the son I worked so hard to bring into this world looked down on me. Ignoring my objections, he married Emily's daughter and called her mom so sweetly and affectionately. The four of them lived happily ever after, completely ignoring my suffering as I struggled in pain alone on the brink of death. Once they knew I was dying, Jason seemed relieved as though a great burden had been lifted. He started planning a wedding with Emily even before I was gone. On the day I died, they were taking wedding photos at the most luxurious bridal boutique in the city. When I heard the news, I swallowed my last breath unwillingly. Looking back, my previous life felt like one long, humiliating. In this life, I refuse to let myself become that joke again. I will leave Jason and walk my own path. I carefully folded my admission letter and placed it into my pocket, heading home with light steps. The sky was bright blue, the sun warm and brilliant. Everything felt full of promise and beauty. The joy of being reborn was beyond words. To celebrate this new beginning, I bought some groceries and went back to where I was staying to cook a little something for myself. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I heard footsteps outside. Soon, the door swung open. Jason walked in, carrying a large bag. He turned back and said warmly, "Come on in. From now on, just treat this place like your home." With his enthusiastic invitation, Emily walked in gracefully, like a breeze brushing against the willows, holding Gemma's hand. When she saw me cooking in the kitchen, she gave a soft, elegant smile and said, "Emma, and I will be counting on you and Jason from now on." I looked at Emily and Emma in surprise. In the last life, Jason didn't bring the sisters home until 2 months later. Why had it happened so early this time? Seeing me stay silent, Jason frowned and snapped, "Emily is talking to you. Why aren't you answering? Don't you have any manners?" I looked at the young Jason. His face was still as handsome as ever. The face I had fallen for so deeply that I wasted more than 40 years of my life on him. The way he spoke to me, the way he looked at me, it was already filled with disdain and superiority. So, he had started to despise me this early. I must have been blind in my past life. I curled my lips slightly and said, "It's not that I didn't want to respond to Miss Emily. I just don't know what to say. This is your house. I'm just a guest here, same as Miss Emily, so there's no such thing as who's bothering who." Hearing that, Jason's expression turned even uglier. He glared at me and took Emily and Emma upstairs to settle in. I calmly continued cooking. Half an hour later, Jason brought Emily and Emma back downstairs. He glanced at the dishes I had already placed on the table. "Is dinner ready? If so, let's eat." Emma, Emily's 8-year-old sister, dashed into the kitchen like a little monkey. She quickly helped herself, scooping up 3 bowls of rice and bringing them out with cheerful enthusiasm. "Jason, dinner's ready," she called out brightly. Jason politely pulled out a chair for Emily, not once glancing in mid-direction. The three of them sat down and began eating happily together. Emma diligently placed a piece of meat into Jason's bowl. Jason returned the gesture and picked up more meat to place in Emily and Emma's bowls. The three of them completely ignored me, standing nearby, and began eating with great enthusiasm. I watched coldly as little Emma stuffed a huge bite of meat into her mouth. Emily and Emma had lost their parents at a young age and had been raised by their uncle and aunt, who, from what I'd heard, were not good people. The sisters had a tough life growing up, and eating meat was a rare luxury for them. So when Emma saw the large platter of meat on the table, her eyes lit up, and she practically drooled with excitement. She shoved the meat from her bowl into her mouth as fast as she could, then eagerly reached for more from the main plate. But just as her chopsticks touched the dish, Emma's eyes widened in shock. Her face turned red. Ash suddenly spat out the meat. Jason and Emily weren't much better off. Both half them turned beet red, mouths open, panting like dogs, completely flustered. Their tongues burned as if they were on fire, and their mouths went numb with discomfort. Jason bolted into the kitchen to find water to rinse his mouth, while Emily gasped, tears pouring down her face, trying to comfort Emma, who is now sniffling and crying from the pain. The scene was both ridiculous and disgusting. After 10 chaotic minutes, the three of them finally calmed down. Jason glared at me, his face dark with anger. "Sophia, why did you put so many Sichuan peppercorns and chili peppers in the meat? None of us eat spicy food. You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Emily quickly chimed in. "Sophia, are you upset that Emma and I moved in? If that's the case, we don't want to get in the way of your relationship with Jason. Emma and I can leave." As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. She looked like she had been deeply wronged, clutching Emma's hand and pretending she was about to walk out. Jason, of course, couldn't bear to see her leave and quickly stepped in to stop her. I stood there cold and unmoved, watching the three of them put on their performance. Seeing me unresponsive, Jason grew angrier and shouted at me, "Sophia, what's wrong with you? Go apologize to Emily and Emma now." I spoke up slowly. "Apologize for what exactly? What did I do wrong?" "You deliberately made food so spicy it burned their mouths. If that's not targeting them, then what is?" Jason sapped. I scoffed. "That's ridiculous, Jason. Did you ever tell me that Emily and Emma were moving in?" "No. You did in single quotes t.so. What reason would I have to target them? I like spicy food. I can't enjoy a meal without it. I cooked what I enjoy eating. Who did that offend? If you can't handle spice, is that my fault? You all have hands and feet. If you want something different, make it yourselves. Isn't that just common sense?" Jason had no response. He hadn't discussed bringing Emily and Emma into the house with me beforehand. He simply assumed I'd accept it, take care of them and serve them like a maid. But I'm no longer the Sophia from the past life who blindly revolved around Jason. What he liked or didn't like had nothing to do with me. With no way to turn back, Jason became furious. Emily, trying to play peacemaker, said gently, "Sophia didn't mean it. It's not her fault. She just didn't know. Let's just be careful next time." Of course, she was still hoping I'd act like a servant and wait on them hand and foot. I sneered. "Let me make this clear. If you want to eat, cook for yourselves. I'm not anyone's maid, and I'm certainly not here to take care of people who have nothing to do with me." I didn't bother softening my words. Emily's face turned pale from embarrassment, and Jason looked humiliated as well. Furious, headed Emily and Emma out to eat. I dumped all the food they had touched into the trash, then went back to the kitchen to cook myself a new meal. Yes, I had done it on purpose. I knew Jason, Emily, and Emma couldn't handle spicy food, so I made the dishes extra spicy, salty, and numbing just for them. I didn't come back to this life to be anyone's punching bag. Soon, Jason and Emily would learn that I wasn't someone to be messed with. After enjoying a delicious, spicy meal, I began planning my next steps. Now that I'd been reborn, there was no way I'd repeat the life I had before. I was going to college, which meant the engagement with Jason had to be officially called off. I needed to go speak with his parents and end it properly. The Jason family lived more than 200 kilometers from where we were staying, so I decided to go buy a ticket for tomorrow and take a trip there to make things clear. The train station was quite a distance from our place, so I would need to walk there on foot. After buying the train ticket, I figured I should bring a small gift for Jason's parents, Uncle George and Aunt Linda. So I headed over to the mall. What I didn't expect was to run into Jason, Emily, and little Emma there. They were browsing bed sheets and comforter sets. The saleswoman, noticing how well matched Jason and Emily looked, and assuming they were around the same age, eagerly pitched a wedding-themed bedding set in bright red, featuring dragons and phoenixes, symbols of a blissful marriage. Emily blushed, but didn't deny it. Jason didn't deny it either. In themed, Emily picked a pale pink set, and Jason paid for it. They hadn't noticed me, but I saw it all. I even bought some candy for Emma, who squealed with joy. Jason, you're the best. Why is someone as amazing as you with someone like that witch Sophia? She's not good enough for you. Jason didn't stop Emma from insulting me. He just stood there and let her say those things. Then Emily noticed me picking out some local specialties nearby. She gently stopped Emma and said, "Don't say that. Sophia actually a good person. She and Jason make a nice couple." Emma rolled her eyes. Nice couple. Jason is handsome and kind. He buys me candy. But Sophia, you can just tell she's mean. She did that stuff on purpose to mess with me and my sister. Jason cleared his throat and said, "What happened at lunch was Sophia's fault. I'll apologize on her behalf. I'll talk to her when we get back. It won't happen again. It is okay. It wasn't a big deal," Emily replied softly, then glanced in my direction and added curiously, "Jason, how did you and Sophia end up together anyway?" Jason sighed. What else could it be? It was an arranged engagement since we were little. An arranged engagement? Emily looked surprised. I thought you'd have fell in love. Nope. Sophia and I don't really have anything in common. If I were choosing freely, I'd never be with someone like her. Listening to Jason and Emily talk about me like that, I wasn't even angry. I just laughed to myself inside. Jason was right. Our engagement had been arranged by our parents. My father and Jason's dad, Uncle George, were military buddies and extremely close. My mom and Aunt Linda were good friends too. They once said that if they had a boy and a girl, the two would be betrothed. If both had sons, they'd be brothers. If both had daughters, they'd be sisters. So, the moment I was born, my engagement to Jason was sealed. Our families exchanged tokens. My parents gave Jason a jade pendant, and his parents gave me a jade bracelet. Now that I was going to break off the engagement, I needed to return the bracelet in person, and I expected them to return the pendant as well. And if I was truly cutting ties with Jason, then I also had to consider moving out of his house. After all, my father died a hair during a mission, and my mother passed away from grief a few months later. I became an orphan. Uncle George and Aunt Linda took me in and raised me in their home. I was always grateful for that. But over the past 10 years, I never used a cent of their money. As a child of a fallen soldier, I received a monthly stipend. In other words, I had my own income. Leaving Jason's house wouldn't be a problem at all. The first thing I needed to do was break off the engagement. I had already bought the ticket. Tomorrow morning, I would head back to speak to Uncle George and Aunt Linda and make everything clear. In my past life, I was the one who clung to Jason like a fool. In this life, I would be the one to let go first. Fate winning, I had Wanans for dinner outside. As I returned home, I could hear laughter and cheerful voices from a distance. When I opened the door, I saw Jason and Emily cooking together in the kitchen. They stood side by side, laughing and chatting. Emily giggled as she lightly slapped Jason's arm, now and then, while he looked at her with nothing but affection. In both my past life and this one, I had never once seen Jason cook. He was the kind of man who always expected things to be done for him. Even if I was sick or had a stomachache, he wouldn't lift a finger in the kitchen. So, seeing him cook with Emily hit me hard. Love really does make all the difference. When they heard the door close, they turned to look at me. Jason instinctively stepped slightly away from Emily. "You're back," he said. "Dinner's almost ready. Go wash your hands and get ready to eat." I didn't respond. I just curled my lips slightly, carried my bags off local specialties, and walked straight to my room. I opened the door and was stunned by the mess in my room. My clothes and bedding were tossed all over the floor with dirty footprints stamped across the blankets. My clothes were stained and wrinkled, and the nightstand had been ransacked. Books and pens scattered everywhere. What enraged me most was that the photos of me and my parents had been thrown to the ground and torn at the edges. Standing right there, grinning mischievously, was Emma, the brat responsible for the chaos. Her smug, defiant expression set my blood boiling. Who told you to come into my room? I demanded. Your room? She sneered. Don't flatter yourself. This is Jason's house. You're the shameless one living here when you don't belong. Jason can't stand you. As she spoke, she raised one of my torn photos, preparing to rip it further. Put that down, I shouted. Right now, put it down. Emma completely ignored me and tore the photo even more, putting a fresh rip through my parents' image. Fury surged through me. I lunged at her. Give that back. I'm warning you. Don't touch my photos. Emma made a face at me and suddenly let out an ear-piercing wail loud enough to shake the walls. She hit me. Sophia hit me. It hurts stomach. She screamed while clawing and biting at me like a wild animal. I hadn't expected her to go completely berserk. Her small body was surprisingly strong, like a charging bull. She sank her teeth into my hand, drawing blood. Gritting my teeth from the pain, I shoved her away with force. She tumbled backward and hit the floor hard, screaming even louder. Jason and Emily came running at the sound of her cries. When they saw Emma on the floor, clutching her mouth and sobbing, Jason's face turned red with rage. What did you do? He bellowed. Sophia, why would you treat Emma like this? She's just a child. Emily rushed to Emma's side and pulled her up. Emma's mouth was full of blood and she cried hysterically. My tooth. Sophia knocked out my tooth. Blood dripped from her lips as she sobbed uncontrollably. Jason turned to me, yelling accusations, calling me heartless, saying even a child wasn't safe from my cruelty. I didn't answer him. I just bent down and picked up the ripped photo of my parents from the floor, gently wiping the dirt from it with trembling hands. Emily clutched Emma as she cried dramatically like a flower battered by rain. She's my only sister and she's so young. How could you be so cruel, Sophia? If you didn't want us here, you could have just said so. There was no need to hurt an 8-year-old child. Jason comforted Emily while throwing me a look of absolute disgust. Sophia, I never thought you could be like this. You've truly disappointed me. I'm telling you now. You need to apologize to Emma and beg for her forgiveness, or else. I held up my bleeding hand and looked him square in the eyes. Are you blind, Jason? Can't you see what my room looks like? He glanced at my hand and fell silent for a second. She's just a kid, he muttered. Kids make messes. You can clean it up. I laughed coldly. Then you tell me what I'm supposed to do about this. I held up the torn photo. These were the only photos I had of my parents. How do I fix this? Still defending her, Jason said. She didn't do it on purpose. She didn't know. It was just an accident. There's no reason for you to be so vicious. Jason, do you seriously believe I knocked Emma's tooth out? I asked, my voice low and steady. Fine, let's go to the hospital right now and get a full medical report. We'll see if she really lost that tooth because of me or if there's something else going on that you don't want to admit. At that, both Emily and Emma fell silent. Even Jason stopped speaking. He had grown up with me. He knew exactly what kind of person I was. The room fell into silence. I stared coldly at Emily and Emma. Let's go, I said. We're going to the hospital for that report. I was determined. Emily panicked. That's not necessary, she stammered. We don't need your apology, Emily said, her voice tight. Let's just drop it. Drop it? I repeated, my voice sharp. So, I'm supposed to just let it go after your little sister bit me. What if I bit you? Would you just drop it then? And who's going to take responsibility for the mess in my room? What about the things I lost? Let me make this very clear. There was money in me room. Emily's face turned pale with anger. Are you accusing us of stealing, Sophia? How can you be so cruel? Her teary eyes seemed to trigger all of Jason's misplaced sympathy. He frowned at me and said, Sophia, that's enough. You're being way too aggressive. I gave a cold laugh, then yanked open Emma's jacket and pulled a few larger denomination bills from her pocket. What's this? Don't tell me it's hers. Does she look like someone who has this kind of money? Jason, Emily, and Emma were all stunned at the sight of the cash in my hand. The White sisters had been going on and on about how poor they were, acting like they were on the brink of starvation. There was no way they'd have bills like this unless they were stolen. Stolen from me? Being cottered-handed like this in front of Jason? Emily flushed with embarrassment. She slapped Emma across the face. Who told you to steal? Who taught you to do this? Haven't I always told you? No matter how poor or hungry we are, we never take a single cent that doesn't belong to us. So noble, refusing to take a single lesson, yet apparently taking $50 was just fine. Well said, I said with a smirk. You've taught her so well, Miss Emily. Now completely humiliated, Emily scooped up the crying Emma and ran out. Jason, unable to watch them leave like that, followed them. I quietly began cleaning up my wrecked room. When I finally lay back on my bed, I told myself to endure just a little longer. Once I officially broke off the engagement, I'd move out. It was already late at night when Jason returned after spending 4 or 5 hours coaxing the White sisters. He came to my door and knocked. Sophia, I brought some antiseptic. Let me help. You disinfector wound. If it were going to get infected, it would have already happened. I ignored him and pulled that blanket over my head. After a moment, he knocked again. I know you're not asleep. Can we talk? Ick knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. He just wanted me to let it go, be the bigger person, say something nice about those sisters. But after living an entire lifetime, there's no way I'd fall for that again. I know those sisters far too well. In my past life, after I married Jason, View Heights sisters became a permanent part of our lives. Emily went off to college in the capital and Emma stayed behind with me. I treated her like my own little sister. Everyone says the heart is made of flesh. If you treat someone with warmth, surely they'll return it. I thought my kindness would eventually win her over, but I was wrong. Emma was lazy, selfish, and a habitual liar. Every time Jason came home from the military or Emily returned from school, she'd run to them with her stories, saying I starved her, didn't cook for her, didn't wash her clothes, that he then beat her. Back then, I believed she was just a poorly raised child, wouldn't know any better. It wasn't until I relived my life that I understood some people are rotten to the core right from start. Their cruelty is in their bones. I don't want trouble. I never planned to take revenge on them, but that doesn't mean I'll roll over and take it. If the White sisters can behave, then fine. I'll cancel the engagement and leave, and they can have Jason all to themselves. But if they don't behave, then don't blame me. I endured for a lifetime. I won't endure again in this one. If Fanyon tries to use me, I'll make them pay back 1,000-fold. The next morning, I woke up to find the sisters gone. Jason had bought breakfast and was trying to act friendly as he invited me to sit down and eat. I silently picked up a bun and took a bite. Jason kept glancing at me, seeing how cold and distant I was, and how I didn't say a word to him. He finally broke the silence. Does your hand still hurt? I gave a cold laugh. Why don't you let someone bite your hand and see for yourself? Seeing how different my attitude had become, Jason started to lose his patience. Sophia, he said, trying to soften his tone. I just felt sorry for Emily and Emma. They don't have any family, and their uncle and aunt treated them horribly. I couldn't bear to watch that happen, so I wanted to help. There are plenty of people in the world who need help, I said calmly. Why them? Why not someone else? That question caught Jason off guard. His face stiffened and he had no answer. After a moment of awkward silence, he forced himself to say, if you don't trust me, we can get married now. Make it official. His words made me look up at him. Jason, are you sure you want to marry me? You won't regret it. He hesitated, stunned by my question before finally muttering, we've been engaged since we were kids. So, you're marrying me just because it was arranged when we were little? I cut him off. People believe in free love now. That engagement was nothing but outdated superstition. You don't need to force yourself to keep a promise made by your parents. I thought that by being so direct, Jason would finally understand what I meant and agree to break off the engagement. Then we could notify Uncle George and Aunt Linda and move on. But for some reason, he didn't go along with it. Instead, he looked me straight in the eye and said with a solemn tone, Sophia, you're my wife. That won't change. You'll be my wife for the rest of my life. I almost laughed. He had already brought the woman he loved and her little sister into our home as if they belonged here, and yet, he still had the nerve to stand there and lie to my face. In my past life, I really was blind to have fallen for his lies. I was such a fool. I didn't understand why he still insisted on marrying me. But every time I thought about how in our past life, I laid dying while he was off with Emily, happily taking wedding photos, I felt nothing but hatred. If he wanted to keep pretending, then fine, let him. I wouldn't waste another second of my life on him. I changed the subject. I'm heading back to visit Uncle George and Aunt Linda. Oh, Jason replied awkwardly. I've been a little busy lately, so I won't be able to go with you. I don't need you to go, I said flatly. I already bought my ticket. I'm leaving today. Jason stared at me for a moment, surprised. Then I'll drive you to the station. In the end, he didn't take me. Emily started crying again and dragged him off with her. I didn't feel anything at all. I just went to the bus station alone. A few hours later, I sat in the living room of Jason's family home, holding the gifts I'd bought for Uncle George and Aunt Linda. When I brought up the engagement and said I wanted to end it, they were both shocked. Did Jason do something to upset you? Uncle George asked. No, I replied. I just don't want to get married so soon. I want to go to college. I want to study and gain knowledge. I want to serve my country and be someone useful like my father. The two of them exchanged a look. It was clear they didn't fully believe me. They weren't completely unaware of what Jason had been doing. Uncle George's face darkened. Is this about that girl, Emily? Uncle George, please don't worry. This is entirely my decision. I said, I'm truly sorry, but I can't go through with this engagement. Please just let it go. Seeing how determined I was, they had no choice but to agree. I took out the jade bracelet their family had given mine as the engagement token and returned it. Aunt Linda also returned the jade pendant my parents had given to Jason. They told me I would always be family to them, no matter what. I was deeply grateful for that. Looking back, I realized Jason must have agreed to marry me in the past only because of pressure from his parents. But now, I had finalized things right. I wouldn't let it repeat. With the engagement officially over, I stayed with them for another week before returning. The return bus was delayed. It wasn't until PM that I got back. The house was dark. Wanting not to disturb anyone in the middle of the night, I quietly let myself in, tiptoed upstairs, and made my way toward my room. But just as I reached my door, I heard something strange. Sounds from inside that unmistakably meant someone was doing that. I was stunned. What the hell? I shoved the door open and flicked on the light. The scene inside the room came into full view. On my bed, Jason and Emily were wrapped around each other, clinging tightly as if they couldn't bear it to part. At the sound of the door opening and the sudden glare of the light, Jason bolted upright in shock. His eyes widened when he saw me standing at the door. Sophia, he started, but stopped abruptly when he glanced at Emily, still in his arms. In a panic, Jason shoved Emily away. Caught off guard, she tumbled off the bed and hit the floor. Jason didn't even bother checking on her. Instead, he turned toward her, voice trembling with fury. What's going on? Why are you in Sophia's room? I stared at them coldly. That's a question you should be asking yourselves. If you wanted to do something like this, why not use your own room? What does doing it in mine make it more exciting? As soon as I finished, Emily burst into tears. It's not what you think. It's not like that. Jason jumped in, sounding desperate. Sophia, this isn't what it looks like. I swear my blankets got soaked when Emma played with water and I couldn't sleep in my room. You weren't home, so I thought I'd just sleep in yours for the night. I must have been half asleep. I thought I was dreaming. Oh, really? I asked, sarcasm sharp in my voice. Then how did she end up in here? Don't tell me the blankets in her room were soaked too, so she just happened to wander into me. Emily covered her face and mumbled, I went into the wrong room. Of course, I didn't believe that. I wasn't sure if Jason did either. I glanced at the two of them, clothes askew, flushed, and disheveled. I let out a laugh. Well, since it's already comedo this, why not just go get a marriage certificate? You clearly love each other. I'd say my stepping aside is just perfect timing. I thought Jason would seize the opportunity and agree. Budence again, he surprised me. This is just a misunderstanding, he said earnestly. Nothing happened. Sophia, please believe me. I would never marry anyone else. You are the only woman I'll ever call my wife. Emily had brightened for a moment when I suggested they get married, but Jason's rejection turned her face deathly pale. You can't humiliate me like this, she cried. I only walked into the wrong room. I don't want to live anymore. She began crying hysterically and bolted for the door. I didn't stop her. I even helpfully opened it wide. Let's see if this shameless woman was actually willing to throw her life away. Unsurprisingly, she wasn't. She thought he'd hold her back, or at least Jason would. But Jason didn't budge from the bed, and I stood there like an audience member watching a bad drama. Her performance was ruined. Caught between running out and backing down, Emily froze just as Emma appeared. Emma rushed over and wrapped her arms tightly around her sister, crying as if her world had collapsed. I watched the whole thing unfold with icy detachment. If I had known Emily and Jason were planning something like this, I would have delayed my return by another couple off days. What terrible timing. After the scene, Emily fell sick. She stayed in bed, refusing to eat or see a doctor. I had no idea what she was scheming, but I didn't care. I'd already broken off the engagement with Jason. Whatever happened between them now had nothing to do with me. Still, I knew staying in this house any longer wasn't right. So, I began packing to move out. As I gathered my things, I heard Emma crying downstairs, speaking to Jason. She won't eat anything. She keeps saying she wants to die. What should I do, Jason? She's Ali Have. If anything happens to her, I won't want to live either. Of course, Jason was worried about the woman he loved. He followed Emma into the next room to try to talk sense into Emily. From across the hall, I could hear Emily sobbing hoarsely. How am I supposed to live like this? I don't want to live anymore. Just let me die. Jason's comforting words didn't calm her. In fact, she became even more dramatic and began threatening to end her life again. I kept packing while listening to the show. I didn't know exactly what Jason said to her, but eventually her weeping faded. My guess, he finally promised to marry her. She'd gotten what she wanted. Naturally, the idea of dying suddenly didn't seem so appealing anymore. I continued packing my things. Then Jason came knocking on my door. What do you want? I asked coldly. Sophia, can we talk? He said, from outside. Talk about what? I asked sarcastically as I opened the door and looked him straight in the eye. Jason met my gaze, but quickly looked away, flustered. Don't look at me like that, he said, almost pleading. Nothing happened between Emily and me. You were in my bed together and nothing happened. I shot back. Seriously? We didn't go all the way, he said weakly. I sneered. So, you're saying it's not your fault? I'm not saying it's yours either, Jason said quickly. I just want you to know that I never meant to betray you. What happened last night was an accident, a mistake. I'm just glad you came back when you did. I laughed dry and bitter. Right, I interrupted you. My bad. Sorry for ruining your moment. Sophia, stop saying nonsense, he snapped. Emily Andy, it's not what you think. Oh, then what was it? Lying half naked in the dark in my bed, whispering dreams of the future to each other. Jason's face flushed red. I told you, I thought I was dreaming. I thought it was you. So, I let myself go. I rolled my eyes. Disgusting. Don't make me gag. He looked like I'd slapped him. I'm telling the truth. If I'm lying, let lightning strike me down. I didn't even blink. If swearing worked, you wouldn't have gotten away with deceiving me in our last life. You wouldn't have betrayed our marriage, lied to me over and over, and then married Emily after I died. Don't expect me to believe a word from your mouth now. I was tired of him clinging to me, trying to explain what didn't need explaining. You don't owe me anything, I said flatly. Whatever your relationship is with her, it's none of my business. You're my fiancé, Jason said almost desperately. If you don't care, who would? I gave him a cold laugh. If you came here, just get to the point. What do you want? He hesitated before saying, Emily, she's ashamed. She felt so guilty after what happened last night. She wanted to die. I spent a long time talking her down. She said she can't stay here anymore, not after what happened, but she has nowhere else to go. It's just her and her sister. I felt sorry for them, so I came up with a compromise. I didn't respond. I just looked at him in silence. Jason paused again, then continued. We're getting married soon anyway, and once we're married, you won't be going to college. So, why don't you give your college spot to Emily? I let out a cold laugh. Was that your idea or hers? It was mine, he replied. Really now? And why should I agree to that? I asked, my voice cold and calm. Who gave you the right to make that decision for me? Jason stiffened. Aren't we engaged? What's yours is mine, right? We're not married yet, I said icily. And even if we were, you still don't get to decide what I do with my life. You're the one who did something wrong. Why should I be the one paying for it? And was to say it was even a mistake? I spoke slowly and coldly, emphasizing every word. For all I know, this might have been something you and Emily planned from the beginning. Isn't that what this is really about? A setup to take advantage of me? Jason shot to his feet, furious. How can you say that about me? I'm your fiancé. Not anymore. We're breaking off the engagement, I said flatly. He looked at me completely stunned. My indifference must have cut deeper than yelling ever could. You want to break off the engagement? He asked, disbelief in his voice. Why not? What do you think this is about? You brought another woman home, claimed she needed care, then ended up in bed with her. Since you two clearly love each other so much, be with her. I'll step aside. Jason panicked. You're making it sound like something it's not. There's nothing between Emily and me. I told you already. My wife can only be you. No one else. I looked at him the way one would watch a clown putting on a show. His face was red with anger, veins popping in his neck. Sophia, you used to listen to everything I said. I'd speak and you'd follow with it question. Why can't you just think about this from my side? Just this once. He had the audacity to bring that up. He really dared to remind me of how obedient I used to be, how much I used said to love him, even after everything he'd done to me. I didn't want to argue anymore. If you're here to talk me into giving Emily my college spot, forget it, I snapped. She better give up that dream right now. If she wants to go to college, she can earn it on her own. Stealing someone else's chance. Pathetic. I raised my voice deliberately. I was sure Emily and Emma were eavesdropping in the next room, just as shameless as ever. The fact that they screwed up and then expected me to clean up their mess, it was laughable. Who did they think? They were plotting to take my place like I owed them something. I shoved Jason out of my room and went back to packing. But suddenly, a thought struck me. The way Jason and Emily had talked about taking my college spot, it was too familiar, too well rehearsed. Could it be that in my past life, after I gave up college to marry Jason, Emily secretly took my place? Could she have used my name and stolen my admission? She and I had no connection at all. How would that idea even cross her mind unless someone fed it to her? Unless Jason had been in on it the whole time. The realization made me skin crawl. If that's true, then in my past life, I was beyond pitiful. I had to get away from them completely immediately. I grabbed my packed bags and made for the door, but Jason blocked my path. You're not leaving, he said, standing firmly in the doorway. I'm moving out, I told him. I won't let you, he said. That's not up to you anymore. I'm leaving. Is this because of Emily? I swear there's nothing between us. I know you're upset, but I'll tell her to leave. I'll cut ties with her for good. His sudden change in tone surprised me. What was he trying to do? Was one college spot really worth so much to him? Why did he seem so desperate? I couldn't read him anymore. Still, I pushed forward, determined to go, but Jason's face turned cold, and his voice dropped to a threat. You're still legally my fiancé. Everyone knows it. If you move out now, no one will take you in. This counts as interfering with a military marriage. You could go to jail. Do you understand that? He wasn't wrong. Jason was a major now, and our engagement was public knowledge. If things got messy, no landlord or family would dare accept me. They'd be too afraid of the consequences. So, I swallowed my frustration and went back into the house. I'd just have to endure a little longer. In 10 days, college would start and I'd leave for good. But the fact that I couldn't move out when I wanted to left me deeply unsettled. And then a terrifying thought occurred to me. If these two had been scheming to steal my college admission all along, they wouldn't stop now. They wouldn't just let me walk away. Keeping me here was part of the plan. I had to stay sharp. They'd try anything to stop me. It needed to be ready. I braced myself and stayed alert. I had already made up my mind to stay on guard. Not long after, Jason left on assignment. With him gone, Emily came to see me herself. She didn't bother pretending anymore. The masks were off. She got straight to the point. Sophia, she said, you know what happened that night? I was almost assaulted by Jason. If you don't want your fiancé to end up in prison, you'd better give you your college admission spot. I gave a mocking laugh. You're whispering. Say it louder. I'm not joking, she said coldly. I'm serious. You know how serious this could be. If I go to the police and report what happened, Jason could be arrested for rape. His life would be ruined. You love him so much. Do you really want to see him in prison? Then go ahead, I said with a faint smile. Report it. Let's see if it's rape. or prostitution. The police will find out the truth. I looked Emily straight in the eyes. Just don't drag yourself down in the process. The police aren't like Jason. They won't pity you just because you play the delicate flower. They won't fall for your tricks. If you end up getting arrested for solicitation, don't blame me when everyone laughs at you. Emily's face flushed with rage. Sophia, are you sure you want to make me your enemy? She knew I'd seen right through her. She softened her tone. I never intended to take Jason from you. I'll tell you the truth. Jason does like me. If I raised a finger, he'd drop you in a second and come to me. Then go ahead, I said. Raise that finger. Seduce him all you want. Why are you here talking to me? I don't like him anymore. You really know how to talk. She snapped. I already told you I'm not trying to steal him. I don't even want much. You and Jason are about to get married. You're not going talk-a-ledge anyway. Just give the spot to me. It's a win-win. If marrying Jason is like a blessing, I said flatly, then marry him and leave me out of it. I'm not your parents. I won't spoil you. You and my college seat? Dream on. I stared her down and warned her. You want to report Jason to the police? Go out the front door and take a left. 500 me. There's a police station. I'll be right here waiting for the good news. Seeing that I was completely unshakable, Emily had no choice but to leave in frustration. But I knew this wouldn't be the end. I knew these sisters wouldn't give up so easily. We were still living under the same roof, and knowing what they were capable of, I stayed on constant alert. I even stitched Mike's alleged admission letter into the lining of my clothes and hid my money carefully. I wasn't going to give Emily or her sister even the tiniest opportunity to exploit. Time flew by. Jason eventually returned from his mission. As soon as he got back, he found an apartment for Emily, but she refused to move out. Instead, she continued playing sick, making a scene every day, pretending to be on the verge of death just so she could stay. Apparently, inviting a ghost is easy, but sending it away is the hard part. Sometimes I wondered if this wasn't just another act. Jason and Emily playing some elaborate game to break down my defenses. Whatever it was, it didn't matter to me. My departure was getting closer by the day. Jason started spending more and more time with Emily. I didn't know what they were discussing, but every time he came out of her room, he looked grim and worn. I could sense the pressure weighing on him. I figured the biggest headache for them right now was how to get their hands on my college admission. So, I stayed still and quiet and changed. Jason must have assumed that meant I'd given up on leaving. His attitude toward me suddenly shifted. He began treating me better than ever. He started buying the desserts I liked. He invited me out for walks, for conversations, even suggested we go see a movie together. These were the things I used to long for in my past life, but no, I rejected them all. Who knew what kind of trap he might be setting on Emily's behalf? There was no way I'd fall for it again. While I stayed calm and cautious, Emily continued her act. Her condition supposedly worsened. She was even taken to the hospital a few times, always by Jason himself. Her cries of despair grew louder and more dramatic, but no doctor could find anything wrong with her. After all the shaming, things ended up right back where they started. I could see the growing irritation in Jason's face. He hadn't succeeded in tricking me into giving up my college spot for the woman he loved. Now he was getting desperate. I knew both he and Emily must be scrambling to figure out their next move, plotting how to trap me again. Sure enough, Jason came to me complaining. She refuses to move out. What am I supposed to do now? That's not me problem, I thought. Why should I care? I said coldly. If I'd known it'd be like this, I never would have peed her in the first place. Jason sighed, clearly not giving up. Sophia, what if you just give her your college spot? She might finally move out then. So, that's still what he's after. Mike alleged admission. He was actually saying it out loud now. At this point, I knew I couldn't refuse him again. If I pushed back too hard, something worse might happen. All I wanted was peace. I had no interest in fighting anymore, so I softened. Let me think about it, I said. Jason's face lit up immediately. He took my hand and, looking deeply moved, said, Sophia, I'll treat you well. I promise I'll take care of you for the rest of our lives. You won't have to worry about a thing. Once we're married, you can stay home and raise our children. I'll support you. I felt nauseous with his hand on mine. So that's what he thought being good to me meant. Keeping me locked at home, working like a servant while he chased after Emily behind my back. I'd finally seen Jason's true colors, just as despicable as Emily, maybe even worse. I knew I couldn't outmatch the two of them head on, and I didn't want to keep wrestling with a pair of snakes. It's like getting bitten by a rabid dog. You can't bite back, and if you try, you'll just end up sicker. Better to get away before the disease spreads. So, I decided to leave early. To keep Jason calm and unaware, I gave him a definite promise. After we got married, I'd give Emily my college spot. Jason mistook my words as a bargaining tactic. He thought he was finally agreeing to marry him. Excited, he immediately promised to move the wedding up. I watched him running Garen making plans, expressionless. I knew the wedding wouldn't happen. In my last life, he got deployed around this time and had to delay the wedding. If nothing changed, it'd be the same this time around. Sure enough, 2 days later, Jason got called on another mission. Before leaving, he found me for one last talk. Sophia, you're the one I truly love. I've already filed our marriage report. To convince me, he even showed me the document. Don't make any trouble while I'm gone. Just wait for me to get back. We'll get married the minute I return. I pretended to be touched. Don't worry, I said. I'll turn it in for you. Just focus on your mission. He really believed me. He happily handed me the marriage application. The moment he was gone, I shredded it and flushed the pieces down the storm drain. Then I packed my bags and headed straight to the train station. When I got back to the house briefly before leaving for good, Emily sneered at me. So, when are you handing over your college spot? I sneered right back. Why are you in such a hurry? Why wouldn't I be? She snapped. School's about to start. I need to get proof, handle all the paperwork, and there's so much to prepare. I don't have time to wait. Just give it to me now. Dream on. I flatly refused. Wait till Jason's back from his mission. I'll give it to you then. Emily, unsurprisingly, wasn't someone who took rejection well. I could see the panic and fury in her eyes. That night, I had a stomach ache and got up to use the bathroom. Passing by the sisters' room, I noticed their lights were still on. It was already so late. What were they still doing awake? Something about it made me suspicious. They were still scheming. I didn't want to harm anyone, but I wasn't going to sit around waiting to be harmed either. So, I tiptoed closer and leaned against the wall to listen. To my shock, I heard something that confirmed everything I suspected. Emily was fuming, scolding. Her sister? Didn't you say she'd give me the spot without a fight? Why hasn't anything gone the way you said it would? How would I know? Emma said, sounding frustrated. Last time, she gave up her college admission just to marry Jason. She did it voluntarily. Sophia handed over the college spot to you without any resistance in the last life. But in this one, she's completely uncooperative. It's like she's a different person. It gave me chills. That's when it hit me. Emma had been reborn too. Emily was silent for a moment, then said, "Have you noticed how different Sophia is this time around?" Emma answered, "I have. In the last life, she was like a servant, always so careful, flattering us, doing everything to please us. She obeyed everything Jason said, but now she barely acknowledges us and acts so cold toward Jason too." Hearing that, Emily suddenly raised her voice. Could it be? Could she have been reborn too? You think so? Emma asked doubtfully. It must be, Emily hissed. Otherwise, how do you explain how much she's changed? If Sophia really has been reborn, then she remembers everything from the last life. She won't give in. There's no way she'll hand over that college spot now. Lowering her voice, Emily said venomously, "We have to find a way to force her. Well, make sure she has no choice but to give it up." Her tone was chilling, full of grim certainty. I shuddered and quietly slipped back to my room. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Just to be safe, I decided to leave earlier than planned. Why wait? No better day than today. The next morning, I kept getting a twitch in my right eyelid. They say if your right eye jumps, bad luck is coming. It would stop twitching. Something felt off, so I decided to make a bold move. I called a few neighbors to help me move. Auntie Jang from next door, Auntie Lee, Grandma Wu, and Auntie Wong all came over to assist. Emily and Emma never would have expected I'd act so suddenly. When 5 or 6 people stormed into the house helping me pack, Emily was stunned. "What's going on? Why are you moving your stuff?" she asked, dumbfounded. "Who are all these people? What's it to you?" Auntie Jang shot back. "We're here to help. Sophia, move. Why are you upset she's finally leaving? What kind of woman sticks around in another woman's fiancé's home? Everyone can see what you're up to, Grandma Lou added bluntly. You've got no shame, young lady. Emily's face turned beet red, but she didn't dare say a word. I got all my things onto the truck. When I looked back, I saw pure panic in both sisters' eyes. They were running out of time, and they knew it. Once I left, they'd lose any chance to trap me. As I was thinking that, I suddenly heard Emma shouting from upstairs, Sophia, you forgot something. It's a photo of your parents. I just found it under the bed. They knew exactly where to strike. They knew I cherished my parents' belongings more than anything. They knew I wouldn't leave without them. They were setting a trap, counting on me to come upstairs. I knew blood would be shed if I did. But since they were in such a rush to make a move, I might as well give them what they wanted on my terms. I called back, okay, I'm coming to get it. Upstairs, both sisters were visibly tense. Will she really come? Emma asked nervously. She will, Emily said with conviction. She treats her parents' things like treasure. That day you tore the photo, she was furious. She won't leave it behind. Then we're ready, Emily said. The moment she comes upstairs we act. Just don't push too hard, Emma warned. I don't actually want to end up crippled. Don't worry, I'll be careful. As they whispered their plan, they heard footsteps rushing up the stairs. She's really coming, they whispered excitedly, exchanging a triumphant glance, eyes glued to the staircase. But the footsteps paused at the landing. It didn't go up. Instead, they heard my voice echo from below. I'm not coming upstairs. Then throw it down to me, I said. But if I didn't go upstairs, how could they carry out their plan? As soon as they heard me say that, Emily and Emma panicked. Emma raised her voice. I'm waiting at the top of the stairs. Hurry and come get it. I could hear the uncertainty in their voices. They must have suspected I was onto them. Emily grew anxious. Time was ticking, and if I realized it was a trap, I'd never come up and their whole plan would fall apart. She couldn't afford that. She had to act quickly. Just then, Samiona stepped into view at the bottom of the stairs. Emily didn't get a good look. She only saw a flash of red. I had been wearing red that day, so she assumed it was me. Without hesitation, she gave Emma a hard shove. Why are you pushing me, Sister Sophia? She shouted theatrically. Help. Sophia just pushed my sister down the stairs. Samiona, help. Her cry was immediately followed by Emma's blood-curdling scream as Herbity tumbled down the stairs with a loud thud. There was a pile of metal rods by the laundry downstairs. As Emma hit the bottom, one of the rods impaled her straight through her lower abdomen. Blood sprayed everywhere. Her scream was so inhuman it made the entire house tremble. Hearing the cries and screams, the neighbors who were helping me move rushed inside. Emily, now at the top of the stairs, was frantically running down, shouting, Sophia, you heartless monster. If anything happens to my sister, I'll never forgive you. She reached the bottom of the stairs and froze at the sight before her. Her breath caught. Emma. She stuttered as she stared wide-eyed at her sister, lying motionless on the floor, a metal rod protruding from her stomach. Emma had passed out from the pain, blood gushing everywhere. But Emily quickly hardened her expression and shouted again. It was Sophia. She did this. Everyone, please be a witness. Just then, a cold voice rang out from the doorway. What exactly did I do? Emily snapped her head around, stunned to see him standing at the entrance, calm, uninjured, and very clearly not upstairs. The person she had mistaken for me was now trembling beside the stairs, wearing my red jacket. Auntie Lee. She had accidentally put on my coat while helping with the move. Emily let out a wretched, despairing scream. Emma was rushed to the hospital, barely clinging to life. The steel rod had gone all the way through her lower body and ruptured her uterus. The surgery took more than 24 hours. She was placed on a ventilator, and the doctor said her survival was uncertain. Emily collapsed on the ground. At first, she still tried to blame me, but with solid witness testimony and proof that I had never even stepped inside the house, her plan fell apart. With Emma unconscious and unable to speak, Emily was the only one left to tell the story. Initially, she tried to frame me, but my airtight alibi forced her to backtrack and claim she'd made a mistake. The police became suspicious of her inconsistent statements, but since she was Emma's only relative and had no clear motive to harm her sister, they couldn't act without Emma's testimony. Everything now hinged on Emma waking up. Emily was allowed to return home. At this point, she finally realized she had No chance of getting my college spot, but she wasn't willing to accept defeat. She knew she had to latch onto someone, and her target was Jason. Before we were reborn, Emma had told her that Jason rose to great power and success in the future. If that was true, she couldn't afford to let him slip away. She couldn't lose. She had to win. 1 week later, late at night, Jason returned from a mission. He parked outside and rushed inside, calling my name as he went. Sophia, Sophia, I'm back. There was no answer. He hurried upstairs. The lights were still on upstairs. Clearly, someone was home. Jason thought I was upstairs waiting for him. As he rounded the stairs and rushed up to the second floor, Emily suddenly bolted down and threw herself into his arms. Jason hadn't even had time to react when several people burst into the house right behind him. And just like that, he and Emily were spectacularly caught in the act. Surrounded by so many witnesses and holding a half-dressed Emily in his arms, Jason was stunned. His mind went completely blank as panic set in. He looked around frantically. Sophia, Sophia, where are you? Come out. But Emily coldly cut him off. Don't bother calling her. Sophia's already left for college. She's been gone for days. What? Jason froze. Why would she leave? We were supposed to get married. We already submitted our marriage report. He didn't want to believe it. He tried to push past, but Emily clung tightly to him. You can't just leave after taking advantage of me. I deserve an explanation. I didn't touch you. Why would I need to explain anything? Jason protested, but it was already out of his control. The people who just stormed in weren't strangers. They were Emily's uncle, aunt, and a whole group of extended relatives. This had all been meticulously planned. With so many witnesses swearing they saw it happen, Jason couldn't clear his name, even if jumped into the Yellow River. He had just returned from a mission and was about to be promoted to lieutenant colonel. The crowd, Emily, her uncle, aunt, and the rest of her family, all pressed him with one unified demand: marry Emily, or they would report him for moral misconduct. Jason didn't want to see his career ruined like this. In his last life, he had risen quickly and honorably through the ranks. He wasn't ready to give it all up. For the sake of his future, Jason had no choice. He gave in. He married Emily. It was a rushed wedding. The next day, they filed the paperwork and became legally married. But Jason was suffocating inside. He had never wanted to marry Emily. In his last life, his wife had always been me, Sophia. Why had everything changed this time? He couldn't understand it. He had only ever helped Emily and her sister because their older brother had once saved his life. He owed him in the previous life. After hearing Emily say her brother had died, Jason had pied hair and stepped in to protect them from their abusive relatives. Back then, his help hadn't caused any problems. In fact, I had loved him deeply and had willingly given up my chance to go to college. Jason had transferred my spot to Emily, who graduated and became his personal secretary in the military. She took care of him meticulously, and they'd gotten along well. So when Jason was reborn, the first thing he thought to do was help Emily again, give her a better life sooner. But why had his good intentions gone so horribly wrong? Why was everything in this life unraveling? I had assumed this life would follow the same trajectory, but I had left him. And Emily, once kind and considerate, had revealed herself to be manipulative and disgusting. Meanwhile, I had cut ties with all of them and gone to college in the capital. When I left, I officially transferred my household registration. Although Uncle Jason and Andy Lee claimed they were my family and emotional support, I knew deep down I could only rely on myself. I wanted nothing to do with anyone connected to Jason ever again. During my college years in the capital, I never wrote or called them. Uncle Jason and Andy Lee wrote me letters, but I never opened a single one, let alone replied. 4 years passed quickly. I immersed myself in a sea of knowledge, learning fields I had never even touched in my previous life. After graduation, I applied to work in one of the most remote and challenging areas of the country to serve and give back. Time flew. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye, but all that hard work had finally paid off. Now I returned carrying honor, purpose, and hope. After the combination ceremony ended, I unexpectedly ran into Uncle Jason. We hadn't seen each other in 10 years, and time had clearly left its mark. He looked much older and more worn. He was now retired and had attended the ceremony as a veteran. Kadri, clasping my hands tightly, His voice trembled with emotion. "Sophia, I never imagined you'd achieve so much. I'm so proud of you." I was happy to see him too, and asked about Andy Lee Shield. Uncle Jason sighed deeply. "She's paralyzed? What happened?" I asked, shocked. "It's a long story," he said as he spoke about Andy Lee. The conversation naturally shifted to Jason. His tone grew bitter. "It's all that bastard Jason's fault. He brought that woman named White into our lives, thinking he was doing a good deed, and ended up dragging home a disaster." Through his story, I learned about things I had never cared to look into. I had always assumed that after Jason and Emily got together, they lived a charmed life just like in the previous life. But reality had turned out very differently. Jason and Emily did end up married, dragging along a half-paralyzed Emma. Emma had become temperamental and volatile, frequently throwing tantrums and smashing things at home. Andy Lee and Uncle Jason had been furious about marriage from the beginning, but there was nothing they could do. After all, Emily had dirt on Jason and used it constantly to manipulate him. Jason lost all his drive and spirit. His work began to suffer, and eventually he made a critical error that resulted in an official reprimand in the military. Though he had already been promoted to lieutenant colonel, he was demoted because of it. With the reprimand on his record, his chances of advancement were crushed. Left with no better option, Jason chose to leave the military and transition into civilian life, where he found his career equally stifled and frustrating. His mood soured, and arguments between him and Emily became a frequent occurrence. Andy Lee had never liked Emily. When she heard about the constant fighting, she decided to step in and try to help them patch things up. But what she stumbled upon instead was a blazing argument between Emma and Emily. Emma was screaming that Emily had pushed her down the stairs, leaving her permanently paralyzed, unable to ever walk again. Learning that truth enraged Andy Lee. She was determined to report it to the police, but Emily discovered her plan. Driven by cruelty and desperation, Emily pushed Andy Lee down the stairs, leaving her with severe injuries. Emily thought she had killed her, but Andy Lee, clinging to life by a thread, survived. Eventually, the truth came out and Emily was arrested. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Jason, completely broken by the events, spiraled into despair. He lived every day consumed by guilt and regret. Hearing all of this from Uncle Jason, I felt a wave of sympathy for Andy Lee. In my past life, she had lived comfortably and happily. I never imagined she'd meet such a tragic end in this one. As for Jason, I had never pied him, not even a little. Everything that happened to him, he brought upon himself. As the saying goes, evil begets evil, and good begets good. Jason's downfall proved that he couldn't cheat fate. Emily could no longer live a carefree life either. Idly confirmed what I'd always believed: be a good person, because no matter what wrongdoing will be punished in the end. It's better to be kind.